Yes, Kitty. I'm going to call him Godfrey.
Oh! Oh!
Hello, I'm Tom.
Hello, I'm Chris.
And I'm Tom.
And you're watching That Review Show. Tom, quelle discusse news aujourd'hui?
We discuss A's 3 films A's, all of which have a common theme that we watched in a marathon.
Yes. So this is our 3 Colours Towerblock special. We've watched 3 films, I think all from 2011.
Are they all?
I think so.
Let's just check on the back of the raid, see if it just says £1.
Yeah, must be a fish. So yeah, we watched them in order of IMDb rating from worst to best. So we started with Attack the Block, and then we watched Dredd, and then we watched The Raid.
Coincidentally, alphabetical order.
Yes, so let's start with Attack the Block.
So, Chris, what is the plot of Attack the Block?
So essentially, there's a gang of kids out mugging and engaging in other hijinks on firework night. One of the fireworks that crashes near them turns out to be a female alien, and they beat it to death.
You love that scene.
But she's been spreading pheromones, and the male aliens start to land, and the gang retreat into their tower block to try and fight off the aliens. So, Tom, what did you think of Attack the Block?
Yeah, it was quite good. Yeah, I mean, some of the humour just passed me by. There's a fair few bits in the film where we're supposed to care about people dying, but I just felt it wasn't necessarily... We as the audience weren't manipulated to care enough for it to have the pathos I think they were intending. But overall, really kind of cool. Basically, my favourite thing about it is the main character's trajectory, his arc, and the kind of message of the film. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, so looking at some of the reviews, we read a review by a teacher who'd said that they didn't like the film because it promoted gang culture.
No, it doesn't do that. It's the opposite.
It's the exact opposite. The main character Moses...
I completely disagree. I think it does the exact opposite.
It's the exact opposite. The main character Moses...
I completely disagree. I think it does the exact opposite.
Yeah, Moses, who's played by John Boyega of Force Awakens.
Do you know, I didn't know it was him all the way through the film.
That's really fucking interesting. Thanks for cutting me off. So Moses, who's played by John Boyega of Star Wars Force Awakens...
Yeah. I didn't recognise him the whole time.
Yeah, at the end of the film, the whole point is that he realises that sort of being in a gang and engaging in petty crimes and muggings and things isn't cool, and that there's more to life. And he basically, at the end of the film, they're all chanting his name. And
he's achieved something. He's done something with his life.
Yeah.
Because the film cuts off like really quite abruptly, doesn't it? Spoilers, guys. But I mean, someone just basically says they're cheering for you. Like, do something with your life, kid, because you've been wasting it. And I mean, there are characters. The female character, who's kind of like this almost love interest for him, basically expresses disgust at him
constantly.
Yeah, she's like, "What are you doing? You think you're so hard." In fact, I think it's like one of his female friends as well. Is like, you just think you're a rude boy. You're being an asshole. You know, like, do something with your life. And finally, you know, by using the skills he's got to murder a bunch of aliens, like, it's like, oh. And I loved that the film cut off there, because the film is about him and his arc. His arc is now complete. End film.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Loved the ending. I mean, it elevated the film like a full, a full measure for me, having that ending.
Yeah. And I think there are maybe a few too many characters, so like you say, you don't get the emotional impact when some of them die. But I liked all the characters. I thought they were all well played. They felt like real people.
Wait, this is safe. Good luck.
Did they have to die? Is the question. I wonder for the tone of the film that they were going for, because there is sort of fun hijinks killing the aliens, you know. It's going for kind of dark and gritty mixed with humorous fun. did it have, was it a poor decision to have like some of the main characters die? Maybe not. I don't know.
I think it's kind of. It says on the back of the box here, it's nothing less than the new Shaun of the Dead, and I think
it's just like that. Actually,
it's very much got that tone where it is silly and comedy, but you also get the kind of the payoff of gruesome deaths.
Though in Shaun of the Dead, it was such a hard knock, when the death happens, that I was just like, oh, and it actually kind of ruined the film for me. But at least that shows how effective it was. In this, I felt, it was lacking that, so maybe it wasn't worth having.
Yeah, and I thought the comedy was great. Characters were great. The alien effects are brilliant.
Yeah, the alien effects are great. And I like that if we don't get too much lore building of them, it's just like they're just flipping aliens.
There's no special thing that they need to do to kill them. It's just whacking them with baseball bats and blowing them up at the end.
Let's get tooled up, blood!
Quite sweet, really, aren't they?
And there's no Roland Emmerich Godzilla scene where they find a nest and have to fight their way out, or there's nothing clever about it. It's just literally baseball bats and katanas. Yeah,
no buildings explode. Like a kitchen explodes at one point, but that's about as explosive as it gets.
Yeah. It's good. It felt like a decent British film,
Definitely, yeah. And I'd say because they've kept the alien effects so kind of low key, I think it will stand the test of time as well.
Yes.
It's very much of an era, but
good call. There's no bad special effects, and even the crappy puppet they have is kind of deliberately crappy.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a party at the zoo and a monkey shagged a fish.
So shall we leave that one there and move on to our next film?
Dredd.
The sentence is death.
What is the plot of Dredd?
Simple and straightforward plot. Judge Dredd is assigned a rookie who is in training, who has psychic abilities. They go out on patrol. They get called out to a murder, and as a result of them being there, pretty much the whole Towerblock gets shut down, and they have to fight their way to the top and kill the boss. It's really quite simple.
That is
things thrown in their path, but that's the plot.
That is the entire plot. And interestingly, I would say that Dredd's rookie is really the main protagonist.
Yeah.
Dredd is sort of the context.
Dredd is the context, absolutely, and she's the plot and the arc. I mean, there are a couple of moments where Dredd has moments where we're meant to look on his side and there's tension. I think he runs out of ammo at one point. That's the big Dredd tension moment. Of course, it's resolved quite soon afterwards.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's absolutely fine. I was very happy to have Judge Dredd as this sort of just force.
Yeah, and they sort of almost make a joke of that in the film, because when the commander is trying to prove to Dredd that the girl is psychic, they've got her in a separate room, like an interrogation room.
Oh yeah, she's trying to read his mind, read his character.
She says, "There's a man in here with me, what can you tell me about him?" And she's like, "He's strong, but cold." Almost as there, and then the commander's like, "Yeah, that's enough."
Yeah, pretty much. There's something else. It's like, yeah, we don't need to know that.
Yeah, it's like, we don't need to know who Dredd is.
And that's perfect. I mean, if it was a movie about Judge Dredd, if it was a Sylvester Stallone movie, where you cast a huge actor like that.
Huge actor. His name's Hugh Jackman.
Huge actor.
Oh.
It's asymmetrical. It's wrong. Like Dredd is meant. I don't know if you read 2000 AD, but basically there's always a plot about some people doing something, and Dredd turns up and kills everybody. Kind of how I wish Batman comics were, but at any rate, that's perfect. And I really like the rookie character. I empathised heavily with her. There are some moments in the film where she's put in peril that I was getting angry at the antagonist. I was like, no, don't hurt the rookie, because she just had such, empathy. It's really, really good characters, and straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally, we've got to get from the bottom of this tower block to the top of this tower block, and there are people with guns in between us.
I suppose what made this for me more than just a film and made it a good film is the texture of everything. There's some wicked ultra-violence, some really flipping cool murders.
Yeah, and talking of ultra-violence, there's also the drug that the dealers are peddling in this is called slow-mo, and you get
amazing
some of the violence, but also just other shots of people using the drug, and the effect of the drug is that it slows down the world around you, so they take the opportunity to put a lot of the scenes into ultra slow-mo, and they've made it really saturated and glistening, and it's just kind of beautiful. Even the scenes where it's like a bullet flying through both sides of someone's face in ultra slow-mo.
It's gorgeous.
It's like,
my favourite is the last time it's used in the film, and there's someone just in slow-mo, because everything is so slow I think it's slower than normal, but just so beautiful. It looks cartoony, just because of the effects they've used on it. I'm like, I want the world to look like that.
I think the last slow-mo scene is Lena Headey's face exploding into the camera lens, though, isn't it? Is that the one you mean?
Not the very last camera angle, but yeah. That whole scene, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I loved Lena Headey. And the fact that when they got to the top, it's like, she does a switcheroo on them. Now you're going to lose. No. This is a Judge Dredd movie. Judge Dredd is going to kill her. Fine, done. Flippin' loved it. It was great. I liked watching at last. Unlike what we've seen for a long time, this was a film that didn't go too far in any area except the ones it had to, like being really horribly violent. It just went, no, there's what we got. Enjoy. Yeah,
I'm going to use a rather cliched word and say that this film was quite brave in that you never saw Dredd without his helmet on. Yeah. So Caliban, hats off to him. Haha, pardon the pun.
Great actor to use. Really great. He's got good...
Yeah, but for not having the ego where he's like, no, I need my face to be in this film.
Admirable.
Stallone would have to have that. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I think in its simplicity, it doesn't try and do Dredd's backstory or any of that kind of thing.
It felt like an episode in basically a TV series of films that I want to see.
Well, they may well do that.
Well, when we finished watching this, I just said, Chris, I don't think you're going to expect me to say this, but I want to see the next movie. I want sequels to this. I want to watch 5 of these. I just want the tales of Dredd and his rookie sidekick as she gets stronger and stronger and is starting to take over people's minds.
Well, I'd be quite happy to see just another cop somewhere and Dredd gets called in to help out.
Yeah. We touch with the rookie occasionally, but yeah, most of the time it's just Dredd being Dredd. Yeah, Carl Urban. He's what you needed.
Yeah.
Good Dredd. Oh, I'm just thinking of the bit where the guy's head's on fire. And there was another bit in the corridor where the guy's head exploded. Oh, mate, this movie.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it did violence really great, actually. Made violence front and centre, and I loved it for it.
Yeah.
So, Chris, what was the next film we watched?
So the next film we watched was The Raid.
What do you think?
Well, if in terms of the plot, it's basically Dredd.
Yes.
Except
it's a group, not Dredd.
It's a group of cops called to a tower block.
No rookies.
And they get basically not shut in literally like they do in Dredd, but the criminal who runs the tower block is on the top floor and he says, there are cops in the building. Yeah. Everyone needs to kill them.
And their job is to be there to get him, isn't it? Because they're actually police.
Yeah, although there is a double cross involved. I think the police lieutenant is on the take, and he's trying to do something.
I remember,
naughty. But yeah, essentially the cops have to get from the bottom floor up to the top of the tower block and take out the main baddie.
Yes, so good and simple. I think, unlike Dredd, though, this one tried to put too many characters and events in it.
Yeah.
I should never be annoyed that they tried to flesh out their characters in a movie, but it didn't need it.
Yeah.
Too many moments of oh my god, tension. There's a bit where there's a guy who's injured and it goes backwards and forwards, and that really drags the pace of the film. I mean, it just needed to be a lot more streamlined. Yeah,
like you say, it's a bit bogged down with so many characters. I think you're following about 6 different storylines. Yeah. But only one of them's the main protagonist.
Well, I couldn't work out which character was meant to be the main protagonist at the start.
Yeah.
Because it seems to follow the leader of their squad for a bit, and then we switch to him. It's like, oh, right, okay. And I don't mind that structure, but it's sort of, for this kind of simple movie, why can't we just have one?
Yeah, we see him right at the start getting out of bed and praying. And then,
yeah, of course. So, yeah, I guess we start with him.
But, yeah, so, whereas Dredd used bullets, this film used fists, feet, and knives.
Like the knives.
The fight choreography was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I don't agree.
Well, you're wrong. I think the problem with the fighting was that there was too much of it.
I think the fight choreography was too good. It looked like a wonderful ballet. And sure, some movies do that, but it's kind of immersion breaking when you've got this gritty movie where the first act of violence happens is a child is shot, that you have these people doing all kung fu moves, it's a bit over the top.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't have minded it so much had they not tried to flesh out the characters so much and have so many stories going on, because it, like you say, it felt like it was trying to be a gritty, realistic film, and then the fighting was ridiculous. But I thought it was wonderfully ridiculous.
Oh, it was fun to watch. Yeah.
But it did, and particularly at the end, that last fight scene where the two brothers gang up, because one of the brothers is one of the criminals, and one of the brothers is a cop, and they team up against
he gets a knife through his hand.
The mad dog criminal, and that fight scene goes on for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And about 5 punches in, you're like, well, you're dead. You're dead.
But again, maybe we're taking it too... No, maybe I'm taking it too seriously. Perhaps it's fine that it's silly. I mean, I've watched movies before with crazy, mad combat. The Matrix, for instance. In that, though, there's a context for it to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't know. It felt over the top in places, in a great way, and sometimes it felt over the top in places where I was like, can we get to the end of this now, like you're saying? That last fight was just horribly boring.
Yes.
It was fine to begin with, and then...
Yeah, there were not enough stakes for us to care about, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's worth watching, I would say. Definitely worth watching, because it's entertaining.
That knife fight. I should say, there are a couple of moments in this movie, though, where we were laughing and cheering, because, everyone likes a good bit of dumb kung fu.
Yeah.
That knife fight.
Okay, so in terms of IMDb scores, this was 6.6.
Right.
Dredd, 7.1. And The Raid, 7.6.
So The Raid's basically a whole point above Attack the Block, and Dredd's in between.
Yeah. What would be your ratings for these?
Well, can I first address IMDb's? I think there's a reason why this is higher than the other two, and that's because it's more appealing to a mainstream audience.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is weird, because you think Dredd, it's a big IP, it's more big name, but at the same time, yeah, that's going to appeal to a wider audience, because it is just, the kind of kung fu film that we've seen before, Lots of people are going to watch that. It's a popular genre. However, I think it's, of the 3 films, inferior.
Yes.
So, I think Attack the Block's too interesting in a way, and too complex in its delivery of its message, really, to get as high a score for others. So, for me, I would say, let's just scramble that all up. For me, Dredd, absolutely. If I was to give it a score out of 10, which is, I suppose, what I'm supposed to be doing, God, what would I give it? I'm inclined to say, 9? I wonder if that's too generous. Maybe 8, because, yeah, it's not, 8. It's not so amazing that I'm like, oh wow, I want to live this film, but it's good enough that I'm like, can we watch more of this? I'd definitely watch this film again. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you on that one and say 8 out of 10 for Dredd. I think there are a few bits where the pacing, it slows itself down a little bit too much.
Yeah, when they get separated, it does go a bit slow. But again, that's only 5-10 minutes long.
Yeah,
it's not like where we've got a 20 minutes fight scene where we're going, can the fighting be over? And the fighting is the point of the film.
No, exactly. So yeah, I need to say 8 out of 10 for Dredd. How about, what do you want to do next? Attack the Block, right?
Yeah, Attack the Block. Attack the Block's a solid 7, defo. Not as good as Dredd. Had it not ended the way it did, I'd have probably given it a 6. Because it's fine. It's a fine, well-crafted thing. I found it enjoyable enough. I didn't love it all the way through. But when it finished the way it did, I just went, nailed it. Well done. Excellent. It's a 7.
So I think for me, I'd go 8 for Attack the Block. Again, I think a couple of issues here and there, few too many characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally I think funny. I think I've maybe found it funnier than you did.
Yeah, I didn't find it that funny.
I like the characters a lot. I like, again, the simplicity of the story. I like the fact that it wasn't going over the top with anything. It didn't develop anything that needed or didn't need to be developed, with alien backstory and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, some good set-off payoffs. I seem to remember a bit where a guy learns to jump.
Oh yeah. He says
that was quite good. Yeah.
Yeah, he says I can make that jump, and then he doesn't go for it, and then later in the film he has to make the jump because he's being chased by aliens, and he does. And
see, for me, that's 7 out of 10 fair. You know, like competently told, decent message, well done.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, and lastly, our top scorer on IMDb, The Raid.
Nah, 5 out of 10.
Funny, I was thinking exactly the same thing.
Yeah. It's fine. Watch it. Yeah, watch this film. Definitely. I'm not going to watch it again. Bloody hell, I'll waste my time.
Yeah, I think 10 out of 10 for 60% of the fighting.
Oh, no. 10 out of 10 for 20% of the fighting.
Oh, I don't know. See,
there was like one really awesome fight scene and that really great move with the door.
But considering the film is just a vehicle for cool fighting, I think the fighting is awesome. I just think within the context of the film, which is why I'm only giving it 5 out of 10.
Right. Yeah. The context of each fight kind of is the problem.
Yeah,
because I'm always like, oh.
If it had just been a half-hour video of the cool kung fu moves, I probably would have rated it higher. It's just the film that they dropped it into was a little underwhelming, a little bit boring, a little bit confusing in places as well, because you're just like, well, hang on, who's done this?
There was just too much plot for a movie about get to the top of the tower.
Yeah.
Well done, Dredd. You got that right.
Yeah, well, that's why Dredd scores so highly for me. Because, I mean, we moan a lot about films that don't develop characters or don't have much of a story, but Dredd, it's on purpose.
Yeah.
Dredd is like, this is Judge Dredd. He needs to get from A to B.
It's funny, something you say about context is really important for these three films. I think in a simplistic film, the context is key. Because Attack the Block is very good. And that is because the context is there's a nasty gangster boy who is trying to learn something, you know? And the stakes are his friends, his livelihood, his house, the estate. It was very recognisable to me as a British person. Like, yeah, like it's what we know type thing.
Yeah.
The stakes here are pretty straightforward. But in terms of the context, like the context is this really interesting world, a gritty, nasty world that this is part of. And there are shots where you see the tower block from the outside, and it's just one of hundreds. This is such a small story in terms of the grand scale. They're not saving the universe here.
Yeah.
And, you know... contextually, there's all these world-building details like the drug itself, and that really added that richness and texture. The context for The Raid was very dull. It's like, there's some guys and it's a spider cross kind of thing. It's like, yeah, seen that before. Haven't seen anything like these before that did it quite that with that new, unique flavour, you know?
Yeah, I think part of the appeal of Attack the Block is so British, and I would hope that wouldn't alienate people that aren't British from watching it.
Alien.